In 2021, Americans spent over $2 billion on houseplants. But half of those plants die before they even make it home.
Hosta Farm here in Miami produces 1.6 million plants every week. The company supplies giant retailers like Home Depot, Walmart, IKEA, and Whole Foods. This is Mike. He's the production manager.
We're here at our soil processing plant. This is the beginning of the growing cycle.
Mike makes a living keeping plants healthy.
That's the main goal, to keep it alive.
But at this scale, that's not always easy. Hosta has to maintain the perfect ratio of light, water, temperature, and food.
We can only deal with the natural factors.
Every grower will lose some plants along the way. That's what the industry calls shrinkage. But Hosta has taken steps to minimize it. It all starts with this potting mix. Hosta uses coconut coir, which comes from the fibrous middle part of the fruit.
Nosotros recibimos el coco de la India, casi todo viene de Sri Lanka.
This is a more sustainable alternative than peat moss, which releases carbon dioxide when harvested and takes a long time to grow back.
We're just talking about millimeters or fractions of millimeters of growth a year.
After the coconut coir arrives at Hosta, these machines rehydrate it. It's then ground and mixed with wood fibers. This machine drops the soil mixture and fertilizer into pots. Workers gently flatten the soil by hand to get an even spread. Hosta says this recipe gives plants the best chance of survival until they reach store shelves. Next, the pots head over to the production area to get their young plants. These are cuttings, taken from the stems of more mature plants. These workers place the cuttings into pots. They're fragile, so they have to move fast.
La idea es que la planta no sufra estrés. Mientras más rápido sea el proceso, es mejor. Tenemos menos pérdida en el campo.
During this process, growers nationally lose an average of 20% of their plants, although Hosta says it loses half that. Another reason plants die? Disease and pests. The biggest concern are spider mites and mealybugs.
They're sucking the juices out of it. The leaf is not able to get the proper nutrition.
Workers inspect every plant. If they spot any spider mites, they fire up this fancy gun, which is actually a repurposed leaf blower. The dust that comes out is full of bigger, predatory mites.
Lo que vamos a hacer ahora es soltar estos depredadores, que son un insecto beneficioso para nuestras plantas.
Predatory mites don't hurt the plants or people, but instead feed on the dangerous spider mites. They're also a safer alternative to pesticides. Afterwards, this giant sprinkler moves through to water them.
This plant now will spend its life cycle growing here.
Hosta then hardens off some of its plants to avoid any more shrinkage. That means towards the end of the growth cycle, growers starve the plants of humidity, light, and water. The goal? To mimic conditions indoors.
And then that plant will toughen up and we'll feel like we have more of a green thumb because we'll have been able to care for that plant better.
The plants then get one more inspection. One worker places plants on the belt, another inspects the quality, removing any dead leaves. If they notice any wilting, the plants will be removed, and Hosta will try and revive them. But on average, another 10% of plants perish during production in the US. Hosta trucks its plants to retailers all over North America. Some are sold online. But the shrinkage continues in the store. It's estimated about 10% of plants don't make it out.
The big box stores, they don't tend to have horticulturists on staff. They just have people that may or may not water things.
I don't know about you, but I've gone to many big box stores and those plants are in sad condition.
Think wilted or yellowing leaves or rotted roots.
Go and we look at the tomatoes and the bananas and everything. We look for bruises. Is it really ripe enough? And so we need to look at plants even more that way.
But the biggest plant murderers are consumers.
You haven't grown a plant unless you killed it 3 times.
One survey found new gardeners kill 70% of their plants. Even experienced ones kill about 1/3 of what they grow.
That's where we make our money, but hey, let's not say that, right? So folks, when they get plants, they tend to love them so much, they may over care for them and they may not be so successful.
So out of 10 houseplants, only 3 will survive a significant amount of time in a customer's home. When everyone was stuck inside during the pandemic, more people turned to plants for their health benefits. And there's actually science to back that up. Researchers found that having plants in hospitals can speed up recovery time for patients, reduce their anxiety levels, and elevate their moods.
The presence of plants does things like decrease blood pressure, decrease heart rate, increase endorphins, all the things that make you feel better.
Plus, they're pretty. Exotic plants went viral on social media. Today on TikTok, there are over 4 billion views on videos with the hashtag #PlantTikTok. Social media influencers like Summer have made a living off sharing their collections and plant care tips.
You can make something look really good with photography and with lighting, and people all of a sudden may feel the need to have that plant.
And it's driving sales at just unprecedented levels.
And that's driven up prices.
We saw some people reselling the plants on social media for like $1,500 each.
The demand has put a squeeze on producers like Hosta.
How has Costa Farms kept up with it?
We haven't.
We have also grown our portfolio to include different varieties of plants.
But starting a new line of plants, like this Aglonema, could take up to 8 years. And trends change fast.
It's that fabulous time of year when you can buy one window or door and get your next one 50% off. July is.
Through the hardening process, pest control, and quality checks, growers like Hosta are working to minimize shrinkage. Hosta says its shrinkage is half the national average. But as consumers buy more, there's a lot of waste, from the lost plants to the growing number of plastic pots, peat, water, and space across the supply chain.
You wouldn't typically think that houseplants is an extractive industry, but in many cases it actually is an extractive industry.
But there are ways consumers and producers can be more green. Consumers can get clippings from friends and learn how to take care of the plants they've already purchased.
And we understand how our pets function. We have to do the same with the plants. We have to figure out what exactly it is that they need. So we learn not to overwater plants. Most of the time you don't need a lot of fertilizer.
Linda would like to see all growers swap peat moss for renewable potting mixtures, like the coconut coir Costa uses.
They can always compost the plants and recycle the pots.
But if consumers are having a hard time keeping plants alive, they should ask one simple question.
Do you really need that plant?